Welcome to the Ladies' Room, where politics meets women's issues, and we're not here to sugarcoat anything. We're diving headfirst into the stories that matter to women, from Washington power plays to battles over our basic rights. It's bold, it's unapologetic, and yeah, it's going to get messy. Because let's face it, the fight for equality always is. Grab a drink, pull up a chair, and let's get into it. This is the Ladies' Room.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ladies' Room. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. Thank God it's almost Friday. So we have a lot to cover today. I'm Allison, the Mighty Librarian. Hopefully, we have Vagabondia joining us a little bit later, but let's get started because there's a lot to talk about. So today we're going to go into, I just happened to notice a lot of stories, and they may not necessarily be the newest, but they haven't been talked about, so they're new to us, I guess, kind of. So HHS is making some big decisions to keep women healthy again. So that's what we're going to mostly talk about for tonight. But I did want to share a couple of things. Vagabondia sent this to me. Let me see where it is. This really, it has to do with book banning, and it's just hilarious. If I could find, everything's named screenshot, so give me a second to find which one it is. And here we go. So the Department of Defense has been banning books. My Substack, I made a post about, not a full-blown article, although I did want to, for my library, let's try that again, library-related content, I was going to write an article about some of the banned books that are the DoD is banning. So why is the DoD banning books? Well, the DoD is one of the biggest employers in the country and probably the world for a lot of reasons. Under the DoD are obviously military bases. So on military bases, you have the military stuff, soldiers, tanks, guns, ammo, all that great stuff. But you also have where families live. And it's like a mini city, a lot of these bases. So they often have they call it MWR libraries, but it stands for Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. So it's basically like the public library for the base. So I guess the powers that be within the Department of Defense are banning these books from. Also, schools are a big part of military installation. Very few have all three elementary, middle, and high school. Very few actually have a high school, but there's usually several elementary schools, and depending on how big the base is, there'll be a couple of middle schools. But so you have those schools that there are, I guess, now approved book lists. So one book that is banned from by the DoD, meaning in schools, in the public libraries, and those kind of public spaces with kids, they have banned Hillbilly Elegy. I'm not really sure why, but it's hilarious. So I wanted to share that with you. Julianne Moore wrote a children's book called The Freckle-Faced Strawberry. And it's just basically a book about a little girl who wants to get rid of her freckles, and she hates them and she tries to erase them, and it's really cute and all that. And then she comes to realize, hey, I don't get rid of my freckles because they're what makes me different, because everybody's different. And it's a really sweet, wholesome story about a little girl coming to terms with how she looks like, and everybody has a different um everybody has a different appearance, and that's what makes everybody unique, and that's great. So yeah, her book is also banned, probably because I think, it's written by a woman, so they're probably afraid of I can't walk and chew gum. So let's go talk about JFK Jr. JFK, RFK Jr. It's been hopefully vagabond. We have hopefully our camera starts working. All right, I won't.
Nobody wants.
But no, everybody wants to hear you.
They can hear me. They don't have to see me. You're welcome.
Oh no, we always want to see your wonderful face. So, if I could just walk and chew gum. So HHS has, I guess Trump signed an executive order that defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Now, this was signed back in January. This is one of the first executive orders he has signed as soon as we got into office. So, this is the White House, and I have a funny librarian story for later, because a lot of students actually want to know where to find some of these executive orders, and they're like, how do I find this? And normally it's really easy to find them on the whitehouse.gov website, but this White House, like, normally they're numbered, so it's easy to find. So when a news agency says executive order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they're listed in number order 1, 2, 3, so it's easy to find. But this administration is being particularly special. So back to HHS is now on their website, and it's referencing his executive orders. And while Trump goes into like dissertations on, and by dissertations I just mean lengthy paragraphs on his executive order site, they have defined, Matt Walsh will be so happy that there's a definition of what a man and what a woman is. So thank God we have RFK Jr. here to protect us women. So when I was kind of prepping for the show, I talked to ChatGPT probably more than I should, just to see what it says. And let me share this tab. So this came up as an article at Source. So I was like, all right, who's this jerk? So MAHA, that's a thing now. Make America healthy again. I was like, okay, what issues do they think women need to be, that are undiagnosed? So I'm thinking maybe it has to do with some reproductive, not even like abortion related, miscarriage related. I thought some sort of pregnancy issue would be listed in there. We're going to talk about Dr. Austin Lake of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just a minute. And they said a functional medicine provider. We're going to talk about that in a second too. So pesticide exposure, fluoride in water, that is, and they do talk about men and women. I have some funny, if I say something, just keep it in the back of your head because it'll all come together in the end. Infertility and reproductive issues. Now, you would think it would be something more related to biology, but talked about within here, But it's talking about the birth rate, and a major concern among women is severe symptoms of PMS. Dr. Lake noted, we've normalized severe PMS. This is where I agree with him. We have normalized severe PMS. And like, it's not just you get a little moody and stuff. He is correct in that. I fully believe we've normalized those kinds of things. This is what also gave me the side eyes. Unhealthy food choices. You don't say. So then I said, okay, this is a Fox News article. Let's go check the screenshots. I took screenshots of the comments because, of course, we had men crying. Let me get this shared. Okay. Men were so upset that they did not talk about men's health issues. Because God forbid we focus just a little bit on women's issues. These aren't exclusive to women. Meh. How about we focus on everyone's health? Because I need to feel important. Okay, so I promised you we'd talk about Dr. Lake. So let's talk about Dr. Lake. So I didn't know what functional medicine was. Functional medicine is kind of like doctors of osteopathic medicine, like more finding the root cause of something rather than treating the symptoms. They're more open to holistic treatments and really focus on whole body wellness. And you have to go to medical school for it. You completely have to go to it's not, like a bullshit like degree or it's a legit medical field. I cross-referenced that. And this is what I found, and it's a grift, but it's not that big of a grift. What he does is, if you're a prepper, he will help you get like supplies of antibiotics for your prepping. Is essentially, and he has like high tech emergency kits and stuff. So it's a grift, but it's like he's not selling bullshit. But he didn't go to medical school. He's a DPT, which is a doctor of physical therapy. Now they do a lot of schooling. Don't get me wrong. They do a lot of stuff to do, but they're in a completely different field. And so I don't know why he's even listed on some board. I'm sorry, I forgot to share this. This is his website for his business. He, like I said, he sells like emergency kits. If you want, he'll basically sign a script. If you want like a year's worth of antibiotics, he'll let you. And it's completely legal. Like I've seen it. If I had the money, I'd be one of those lunatic preppers. So I can't even like make fun of him for this. But anyway, he does not have a medical degree. He's a doctor of physical therapy. Yeah, that's what I was talking about in DC or OD. Like those are the legit doctors who my daughter's when she broke her arm, she saw this God, why is my brain farting today? The bone doctors. And he only specialized from elbow down, apparently, or at least in their practice, like everyone specialized on a different joint and bone. So he did elbow down, but he also was a DO, where he did like the not homeopathic, that's not what I mean, but like the whole body wellness. Osteopath, thank you. So yeah. So that's who we have our medical advice. Now, I do appreciate him talking, mentioning that women's like menstrual stuff, it's always laughed at. It's always kind of a joke. And yeah, some of it's kind of funny. But it does get downplayed a lot, especially with like endometriosis. I don't even know if you've ever had I don't even know how you even function because that sounds awful. But Vagabondia, what do you think about all this? You said I showed the link. I don't know if you were here in time I shared your link with the banned book at the DoD. So, what are your thoughts?
That's so funny. Um, I First I thought it was hilarious the men's comments that this isn't specific to women. Premenstrual, premenstrual dysphoria and PMS, those are exclusive to women. Sorry, dudes, you can't have that one. You may
Man.
suffer the consequences of it occasionally, and trust me, my dude totally PMSs, but it's not because he's getting his period. So, there's some things that are exclusively ours. You're gonna have to accept that. What bothers me is, and you pointed this out to me when you messaged me about it, is they always go there. They always immediately are like, well, what about us? And be like, dude, you've got hundreds of years of medical research done exclusively on men. We're asking for just a little bit of focus to please be on the unique concerns we have. I find it not ironic, but telling that specifically what they talked about were the fertility and birthing. None of it is about your overall health and vitality and things like that. It's about how can you be a better, vessel for the child, and that makes me sad. And you mentioned endometriosis and some of those other conditions. He didn't mention any of that. He mentioned PMS. That's it.
Yeah.
And like if PMS was the worst thing some women had to deal with, trust me, they would take it. And some women have terrible, terrible clotting and everything else. Sorry to get gross, but like
Right.
endometriosis is a whole other being. It's completely much more complicated, much more involved. It's not just bad cramps. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And it could affect fertility and everything else. And like it just feels like they downplayed the whole concept of women's health so much, and they made it entirely about the genitals. And I'm sorry, we are built very similar to men. A lot of it is the same, but we have higher risks of heart disease. We have a better risk of dying of heart disease because our symptoms when we have a heart attack are different. There are all these things that we know now. We have bone
Yeah.
health issues because of estrogen. We have mental health issues at a different rate and autoimmune diseases at a different rate, probably because of hormones. We're not sure. You know how we could find out? If you would stop defunding women's health research. That would be amazing. I would love that.
Absolutely. And it's like, what I found just really like I could hear the whine in their voices reading those comments on that. And I'm just like, no to like talk about like heart issues, heart attacks. Typical cause of heart attacks in women and men are often two different things, two different causes of what the underlying issue is that leads to the heart attack. It just because it's the same ailment does not mean it can be treated the same. Just because men and women, yeah, we're different, we're built differently, we have different, some things affect women more than they affect men.
I'm sorry to interrupt you,
And
Allison, but one
yeah,
of
go
the
ahead.
big things they've discovered in the limited research they've done of women is that women underreport their pain, and doctors consistently undertreat women's pain. They think we're being hysterical, and it's
Yes.
even worse for women of color. They will be denied medical pain relief consistently when the pain they're in is, if we could objectively, subjectively rather, no, objectively, whatever, brain not working. If we
That's
could determine
fine.
pain, like women with severe nerve damage, obviously it's a very severe pain, and they're reporting that their pain's at like a 5, when a guy would be like, it's at 100, it's at 100. Like we are built to withstand pain differently, and it's different for every woman, of course, but they've proven again and again that women's tolerance for pain in certain ways is very different, and not just the giving birth aspects, in other ways as well. And they completely ignore
Mhm.
that, and it means that we get underdiagnosed for pain related problems and under treated for those things.
And that's okay. That's cute. I'm sure a lot of women and even some men watching have seen some of those videos where they strap those, it looks like a TENS unit almost, and it might just be a higher powered TENS unit, but they put it on a dude and it's supposed to simulate period cramps, and sometimes they have one that can simulate like what birth contractions are like. And I watched this like big burly cop dude says, "Yeah, I'll do it." And he started, I think the levels were 1 to 10, and I don't know what the measurement was on the machine, but he did 1. He's like, "All right, I got this." And 2, 3, he like all of a sudden you see him wince at like 4. And like you can see he's like trying to hold, like 6 rolls around and he's like he's physically and he went up to 10. He didn't tap out, but he's like visibly sweating on 10. He's visibly sweating. And so they were like, "All right, so could you go to work if you had cramps like that, at 7?" He's like, "I couldn't go to work if they were at like 4 or 5. Like, that's awful." And it's like women go to work with like cramps that are at like 7, 8, 9 levels,
Mighty, have
Yeah.
you seen where they do it side by side, where the girlfriend and the boyfriend both have the unit on and it's set at the same level, and the women are like, okay, yeah, that feels pretty like normal every day, and then they'd hit like 4, and they're like, okay, that's that's usually in the beginning when I'm just starting to cramp, and the guy's bent over dying more or less, and she's like, no, that's pretty normal for me, that's not bad, and cracks me up every time.
Yeah. The Try Guys, they did one for birth contractions, and their safe word was epidural. And so when they said epidural, it was like that's when they would have. One guy didn't make it, like he made it like 3 notches, and he was like, "Okay, epidural, I'm done. That's awful. That's god awful." And most of them didn't make it very far, but they were just like, they said they had a message for men, like, if you have children, you need to like be kissing the ground your wife walks on, because you really have no idea how painful childbirth can be. And
Well, and Allison,
it's
I
just
didn't look at that website extensively, but they didn't talk about after you've given birth. Like, not just the recovery from that birth, but all the changes that have occurred to the body after you have been pregnant. It's
Mhm.
substantial. All the different things
Oh
that your
yeah.
body adapted to be able to carry a child. And even if you lose the child late in the pregnancy or you did give birth, your body's never the same. And I don't mean flabbiness or anything like that. I mean, like, fundamentally, your body has changed. The bones have moved to allow you to give birth. Your hips widen, your pelvis, and everything. And it affects your organs, it affects all kinds of things. And they didn't even mention the damage it does to your body. I'm not saying it's not worth
Mhm.
it. Full disclosure, never had a child, but talking to women who have, they're like, yeah, all of these things. My hair changed. The texture of my hair changed. The texture of my skin changed. All of these things changed that were not a factor before. Obviously, worse for some women than others, but they don't even mention that. They act like you shoot out a baby and it's just the next day you're like it never happened. It's not like that at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. And like you bleed for weeks, weeks. And like the nurse, when I was being discharged, she made it very clear to my now ex-husband, was like, you cannot have sex for at least 6 weeks. And like she really emphasized that. And I know why she did, because there's some men, if like the thought of going to the bathroom, I had for a week to use like a makeshift bidet. They literally give you a squirt bottle to use warm water, because like the thought of using toilet paper down there was like made me shudder. Nevertheless, like having sex like that was just not gonna happen. Like, oh wow, woof, yeah, no, that would have never. And it
Well,
like
and bless
you just
Derek's
have.
heart. Yeah, Derek got to watch his daughter being born, and he was like, I have never seen anything so traumatic and beautiful at the same time. And oh my God, I didn't want to. He's like, I didn't want to touch my partner after she'd given birth, not because I was disgusted, but because I felt sorry for her. I felt bad for her. It was like a horrible trauma had happened to her because basically it had. There's a lot of expanding happening when you're going through birth
Yeah,
for a
poor
baby to
guy.
come out of there. And it's got to have time to heal back up, and it may not do it exactly the same.
Yeah, when because a lot of people forget that you also have to deliver the placenta, which is just I thought my ex-husband was gonna he turned green when that happened. When I was just like so oh goodness. But yeah, so I thought in fluoride in water, I'm sorry of all the things that affect women's health. Fluoride in water, but you know what? They're trying. He's trying to get fluoride out of public water. I don't really know enough to speak on the issue about the benefit. I do know that the data does show that our teeth don't fall out nearly like they used to, having fluoride in water. And I think a lot of things can filter it out easy enough if it really bothers you that much. But there are other countries who just use fluoride paste and their teeth still fall out. So,
Well,
um,
and I think we have a bigger issue with just having clean, drinkable water in the U.S. I mean, Flint, Michigan's still struggling. There's other places. I know our local water, we buy bottled water because it is undrinkable. Like the hot water literally runs this weird, I don't want to gross you guys out, it's kind of a milky look. It's really gross because our local water supply is not good. I mean, I have like 3 filters on my shower. I don't even boil pasta
wow,
or
that's
eggs
wild.
in our regular water. We use bottled water. That's how gross our water is. So before I'm worried about fluoride, I just want potable water to begin with. Then we can worry about
That's
the other stuff.
wild. Yeah, like places like New York and California, they might have high taxes, but at least in most areas you can drink the water. Like it seems like at back home every like the first of the month or towards the end of the month, like you could always tell when they added a little bit of chlorine in there, but like it was always drinkable. Like I mean, I drank tap water when I was home, um, for after Christmas, and it tasted fine. So
Well, our
uh,
local water, I worked with an agency, and someone reported that their water was really gross, and they were asking us what we could do about it. And we're like, well, we don't supply the water; the city does, or the township. Let me see if I can get their latest safety test. And they were like, oh, we're paying someone to test it, but we haven't gotten any results from them in a year and a half. And I'm like, I don't care what your problem is with why you don't have test results. We need test results because the person, this person's paying me money to be able to live in this abode, and they don't have drinkable water, and I need to do something about it. And then just that was like 4 year no, that was 6 years ago. Just like 2 years ago, they finally released a water safety test by some miracle, and it like just barely passed the threshold of what's legal in the US. And I'm like, that is disgusting. And then we just had in the paper 2 days ago that they caught someone dumping diesel into our local water supply.
what the fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah, and I mean our river's gross, and they take our river water and like put it through a purification. But now someone's throwing diesel in there as well. Like, no wonder we can't drink this crap, and no wonder the
Mm.
cancer rates up here are ridiculous. Of course, we got a ton of fracking too, but still.
Um, yeah, I watched one show where like the guy could light his water on fire, like because of the fracking, and natural gas would be like leaked into the water supply, and I was just like, that is wild. And why can't we have clean? Why is we're a first world country, like for like it that is just unacceptable. And before I'm worried, yeah, exactly. Before I'm worried about fluoride, there's about 100 other health issues that I'm worried about before fluoride being one of them. Um, yuck, yuck. Um, so yeah, so what I wanted to also talk about is I was talking with some of the Tony Michael's podcast moderators. We have a little group thread, text thread, and we were talking about how RFK Jr. wants to get rid of antidepressants, and I'm just like, oh, oh, Big Pharma might let vaccines slide because pharmaceutical companies make no money, virtually no money from vaccines. That's why governments usually work with pharmaceutical companies and subsidize it to make it profitable. Because when you have a capitalist economy, you're not going to study vaccines when there's much more profitable drugs that you could be researching and developing. So vaccines, they might let slide. Now, mental health medication, that's a completely other can of worms. They make a lot of money. So I don't think this is going to happen just because Big Pharma won't let it happen. But like,
do you really
so
think
many...
they want all of us off of our mental health meds? Like, how's that going to go?
Right?
Like, I'm a barely functioning adult with my meds, so...
Yeah, and it's like, I just get really mean. I guess that's a form of bipolar is what, that's what I guess, because if I just had seasonal or major depressive disorder, I think I'd be able to come off my medication, but I can't. Like, I turn into an ugly monster. Monster is a bit excessive, but I'm definitely a lot more irritable and anxious without medication.
I have the opposite problem. Without my meds, I cry uncontrollably and sleep all the time. I wish I got mean when I was off my meds. I'd go off them more often.
Yeah, and I don't feel right. Like I definitely feel crazy. But like so many people have a much better quality of life because of these medications. And so the administration makes you mean, me too. But why are you fucking with people's quality of life? Like just because you say that they'll be healthy, like it's health doesn't make it so. It's like saying, oh, just buck up, cheer up. It's just the blues. Like, go fuck yourself. I don't like. He made a comment, and I'm sure a lot of you had already seen it. He made a comment about how it is easier to come off of heroin than SSIs. SSIs, if you don't know, are a very common class of antidepressants. It's like the most common ones, Paxil, Lexapro. Those are all SSIs. And like, I don't know about you, but like, all right, so if I couldn't ever take another mental health medication, I could function technically. I just live a much better life being medicated. When I tried to come off the medication because they make me gain weight, I really just wanted to lose weight and not have to be on them. But I need to be on them. Like, I am certain I've never been addicted to opioids, but I imagine that coming off of SSI is not nearly as bad as coming off of opiates. Like, I'm sorry. Even though I don't have the lived experience, you don't see like people coming off Lexapro, like, trying to steal money for the, their mental health, their antidepressant medication, like I'm sorry, I'm going to need some paperwork to believe that one, but that it's easier to come off of heroin than SSIs. You can't just come off them. Like, you do have to wean off of them. Just stopping your medication is never good. I don't do that. I tried doing that and that was not smart. You do it with the doctor's supervision and slowly wean yourself off. You can't just, you build your brain up to get used to those chemicals and then you just take what makes them that way away. That's not a good idea. Yeah, heroin withdrawal absolutely can be fatal. You know, living with somebody who's addicted to fentanyl in, with just mild withdrawal symptoms, like after not having it just a couple hours, it's awful for um yeah, it's just terrible. But I really went like it's gonna be, it hasn't even been, oh no, I think today made a full month. But like, what a long month this has been. It feels like it's been a
It
lot
hasn't been
longer than
30
just a
days.
few
It's been
weeks.
30 years, I'm pretty sure.
It has to be like, and it's just wild. Like, it is wild. Like, oh, oh, John Lennon's Cold Turkey. Yeah, that does. I mean, I just don't think people who are not medical professionals, and even when you're a medical professional, like, just because you went, to medical school doesn't mean, like, I'm gonna, there's specializations for a reason. So I'm not gonna trust a bone doctor for mental health medication. Sorry. I'm sure he's fully qualified to talk about general medicine. But when it comes to like my mental health, I'm going to talk to a psychiatrist, not bone doctor, dude. There's specializations for a reason. And no, I don't want to drink your herbal tea. It's not going to help. I wish it would, but it's not, because I've tried, I grew up with parents who are holistic, and some of their stuff does work. Some of my parents, like, but some of it I'm just like, that's not going to work, you know.
Well, and JFK
So
Jr. said, JFK, RFK, whoever he is, Bobby, Bobby J said that we didn't need our meds. We just needed to go outside more and plant a garden. And I'm like, dude, without my meds, I'm not going outside for sure. And I can barely keep myself alive, much less a
I
plant.
hate gardening.
And trust me, I do garden when I'm on my meds, and it brings me a small bit of happiness, but not quite to that level. And you're destroying the environment, so it's not safe for me to be outside playing in the garden. Thank you very much,
And
Bobby Brainworms. Yeah,
Bobby brainworms. Yeah, and it's like, A, I hate gardening. B, go fuck yourself. You go garden. If it's so helpful for you, you go. What about people who have no room to garden? Like, stop it. Like, just stop talking about things you don't know about.
yeah. We
You
don't all
heard
have
one
$1 million
article.
estates with a gardener.
Yeah, like, see, yeah, that's a really good point. He's a Kennedy. He grew up very privileged. I'm sure if his sister, mother, grandmother, they wanted a garden, they did, and they had beautiful gardens. But guess what? Not everybody even has a small backyard for a garden. Yeah, and that's a fair point. Gardens, to get started, at the very least, cost money. So um
Well, and I
this
thought
is
we
what
were past this.
happens.
Like we'd finally accepted that most mental illness is brain chemistry issues. It's not that it's not that I'm necessarily a sad person. It's that my brain cannot produce and hold serotonin. It's a medical condition. I don't have a choice in the matter. My body doesn't produce the thing. And if it were insulin that it wasn't producing, you would consider that a medical condition. Well, my problem is it doesn't produce serotonin. So this isn't a radical concept. And it took a while, but we were finally getting to that point where we were talking about mental health in that way. And now suddenly we're right back to you just need to garden or go outside more or smile more or whatever.
Yeah. And I refuse. I refuse. Like, go ahead and tell me. Go ahead and tell me to go garden. I'll tell you where to go, you fucking asshole. Don't tell me. Like, I'm not telling you about what to do about your brainworm. Don't tell me what to do about my brain chemistry imbalance. God. So, yeah,
It is
it's
pretty sad that we're taking medical advice from a man with a literal who couldn't even keep a worm alive in his brain.
Yeah, that's a really good point. He's putting mental health back in the closet. And you know who I really feel bad for? They're going to get us into some war. I feel bad for soldiers because soldiers finally did not have to hide their PTSD. They didn't have to suffer in silence anymore. They could get the help they need without their military record being messed up. And now it's like back to the drawing board. Years of progress.
This is tangentially
And
related. One of the budget cuts that Doge made in the staffing, they ended up firing or getting rid of the program that does the suicide hotline for veterans. And it was proven to be highly effective. And it's one of those departments that they're now scrambling to call them back in because they realized it was a big mistake. But Jesus, how did it not cross your mind that these people that you sent into war zones benefited from having someone to talk to? Like, it's a small investment, it's the least you could do. And you just went through cut because it wasn't important to you. That's insane.
or they didn't bother to ask. Like they didn't bother because they fired the people who take care of the nuclear weapons and stuff. Like you didn't like George Conway said this on the Bulwark the other day. Like if I saw a department that said like Department of Nuclear, it was very clear. I forgot what it was called, but it was very clear that they maintain nuclear materials. Wouldn't you ask what they did before you just ask them? Like, wouldn't you just say, they have no thinking, none. And now they're scrambling. I mean, I don't know how MAGA sees them because, what we see and what MAGA sees are often two different things. And I watch a lot of the Bulwark's focus groups, and a lot of people are saying, well, he's doing stuff. He was going to shake things up. And it's just like, wow, it takes very little to impress you, doesn't it? Like, so if I just did something, would that be,
Well, they also they fired a lot of people that were tracking avian flu for the CDC. While there's an active outbreak, it's passed to humans. We've got several cases in the U.S. And has the potential to become human-to-human transfer. It's not there yet, thank God. And you would think that they would want those people, like, you can touch everything, but not the avian flu guys. I mean, please don't, but still. But no, they fired, I think it was a team of like 7, and they fired like 5 of them. It's insane.
yeah, it's what, I, just before I came on here, I was watching it, George Conway and Sarah Longwell, they do like where he explains like legal news to her because he's a lawyer, and one point he made that I hadn't thought about that's kind of sort of comforting but not really, is that by firing everybody in the Department of Justice and with all these lawsuits hitting them, like anytime the DOJ is sued or any part of the government sued, government needs to send lawyers to defend whatever it is to deal with the case. So if they're firing all their attorneys, you know what I'm saying? Like there's only, and apparently with that whole Mayor Eric Adams, basically the Department of Justice was like, dismiss the case. No, like the Deputy Attorney General, Emile Bove, or however you say his name, had come down to New York City to dismiss the case himself because nobody would do it. Nobody. So the courts there's still people who want to do the legal thing. The legal people want a legal. So that's a good sign. Yeah, they're all getting fired, but then you see what I'm saying? Like, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot eventually because they won't have enough people to legal. And that might trigger So, like, I don't know how we get people to react. And that was one point I wanted to make sure I taught. I've been a broken record. Call your representatives. Democrats put out a thing to stop calling them. Oh, is that so? Call them. Even more now. Call them once a day. Call them twice a day. Don't be rude. Don't be threatening. But they forget that they work for us, not the other way around. I've been calling my rep like probably 4 times a week at this point, with different things that I'm upset about. And I talk to his voicemail, and he's about to realize that I'm going to ask for an appointment. Let's see what he has to say to my face. But anyway, the point is, we cannot just sit back. You have to get out and protest. If there's a protest in your area, go to the protest. Call your rep. Write them. If there's an organization in your group, like a ACLU, join the ACLU. If you're a lawyer and can donate some time to these cases, if you can do graphics that, talk about your rights. That just popped in my head. The ICE guy, Holman, he's real upset that nonprofits are putting out information about, like, knowing your rights, essentially. He's all upset about it. It's like, yeah, we have rights in this country. Even if you're not a documented person, you still have rights. That's already been settled law, constitutional law. You can't just treat them like they're, you have to give them the same due process. Now, they don't have to provide you with a lawyer.
They're doing what's within their mission. Part of their mission is educating those people. That's what they're doing. They're telling them their legal rights. How is that in any way a violation of anything? That's literally
because
what
he likes to be sneaky.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know how it said request an appointment, so I'm requesting an appointment. Well, don't mind if I do. And because I'm putting this out into the public sphere, obviously don't be a dick. Be respectful, but make your position known. Even if you have a Republican office, AOC said it works, or at least it gauges how unpopular something is. We have to do something. We have to do something. Doing nothing is not enough.
Allison, are you following the 5051 protest group? They're the ones that did the 50 state capitals thing on President's Day, and they did one right before then, the protests.
Oh, I don't think I've realized that was a group. I don't know how I thought it was organized, but there's so much. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot to keep track of.
My friend's involved with them. She went down to Harrisburg for the one the other day on Monday, and she said that right now they're just now starting to get better organized. It's a little, each state has their own, but they're doing through some central, and they're not exactly sure how it works, but they're working on it. But like, their instructions to everyone is the Republicans are reporting that they're not getting the calls, so they don't believe the Dems are getting millions of calls. And the Republicans who are getting calls are basically refusing to do anything, but flooding them with calls. And they also said that when you make an appointment, bring 3 to 5 people with you, so that they know that there's a concerted effort, and also protection if they lie to your face or pull some shit. You've got other witnesses of what went down.
Right on.
Yeah, I know.
Especially
Fetterman's office up here in Scranton. Their phones were basically off the hook. Like, you could not get through for days. And when people finally got through, they got like this pat answer, and it was not very helpful apparently, which is not surprising.
But that's not, that's not the point. The point isn't to get answers. The point isn't to feel, the point is that you're giving the discourse, you're participating in the discourse that gauges, like, Republicans are full of shit. If they're saying they're not getting called, bull fucking shit. Don't believe it. I don't believe it. for 1 second, you're going to have to show me some serious paperwork. I'm going to need to see phone records from the Capitol to believe that nobody is calling your ass. So, but we all have to do something. And if you have to be a thorn, Indivisible is a great group, and it depends on your area and state, but I highly recommend Indivisible. They're great at helping you organize, because a lot of times, what's hardest about discourse and dissent is the organization. Like, if I don't know how old you all are, but I'm old enough to remember the 2008 crash and Occupy Wall Street. And it could have really brought change, that movement, but it just wasn't organized enough, and it didn't have like a leader, a face to it. So everything needs to be, not necessarily that you need like, necessarily a face, but you need to have a cohesive, like Occupy Wall Street already had the name. So like you have to have the name, and you have like, it kind of fizzled out because they didn't have that leadership that a movement like that needs. So Indivisible is really great at helping you organize locally in grassroots organization.
Chipmunk, I love that. We should all channel our inner Karens for a moment.
Channel your inner Karen. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, don't get, and like my representative's a Republican. He's a freshman Republican too. So he's really wants to kiss Trump's ass. And I'm just like, my dude, you don't even live here. Like, you don't even live here. So, but yeah, so along the same, this is nerdy library time, but I think a lot of you like nerdy library time. So I just wanted to share a couple of things, actually.
They know what they signed up for.
Yeah, you knew what you signed up for coming into this. Okay, Oh, I hear my doggies barking. Stop barking. So, this is, I don't know who produces this. I forgot who sent this to me, but it was probably a librarian who sent it to me. But yeah, and it's USAID is now 100% complete. So what it does is it identifies all the missions of Project 2025, and it's been tracking it through its progress. So you can search by agency, you can search by subject, you can, by how they're tracking it. And it's, when you see it, they have the initial, like they have a specific task that it said in Project 2025 what it wanted to do. So it's really quite jarring to see like their progress and how quickly they were able to do some of these things. So these are pretty much what they said they wanted to tackle first, and they're pretty damn close in getting some of their main objectives completed. So I just wanted to, I put this on my link tree. I had my link tree up here. Did I accidentally close it out? Let me
Hey, Allison,
I put the link.
Did you share this with Tony?
I don't, I'm maybe not.
Okay. I'll look for the link and send it to him, because I think he might be interested in following it for Kaufman Chronicles. Might be interesting.
Okay, here we go. So, if you go to the Library of Democracy link tree, I'm getting this in the link. It's at the top. The link's coming. So that there's the Project 2025 tracker, how to call Congress, finding who your representative is, the 3.5% rule, what we talked about yesterday, last week, and check out our Substack, the Library of Democracy. We're on Substack, and if you want to support the channel, become a paid contributor is always helpful. If not, that's totally fine. It's completely free. Just you get some added perks if you are a paid subscriber. And the links to other ways you can support the channel and the ladies room in the description. Buy us a coffee. We have bookshop.org bookstore. So checks where we make a small commission. So if you buy a book from our bookshop, if you hate Jeff Bezos, they're usually not, they're just the same price as Amazon, sometimes even a little bit cheaper. And we get a small commission from there. So all those links are in the description. But make sure you definitely check out the information on our link tree. And one other thing. If you follow my Substack, let me get this. I started a new, I wouldn't call it a column, but I started Egg Watch, and if you want to submit your egg prices, there's a form in the Egg Watch. But the Bureau of Labor and of Labor Statistics came out with their consumer price index, which monitors the grocery staples. They monitor a bunch of stuff, gas prices, household energy prices. Eggs is one of the groceries that they monitor. They usually monitor milk, eggs, bread, a few other things, fruits and vegetables. This is January 2025. The average price is $4.95 a dozen, which is doubled from last January. And I don't know, somebody do the math from December. I don't know what percent that is, but y'all can. So that's on the Egg Watch. That's my consumer monitoring. You can fill out if if you're at Aldi and egg prices are like $6 a dozen, snap a picture and send it in, and I will post it to show people what real people are paying for eggs in all around the country. So I posted my last egg purchase. I think it was $4.76, $4.86 at Walmart. Cynthia sent me, let me post her shopping egg trip. So, it just to show what real life is. It's one thing to see, the consumer price index, but to see just average people paying, what the real life prices are. Oh, wow. $8.49 a dozen. That's crazy. I heard in Hawaii, I used to live in Hawaii, if you all didn't know that. So I do pay attention to price because I don't know how people live in Hawaii without I was there as a military spouse, and the military gives you a cost of living adjustment so you can afford to live in these places. And Hawaii is quite significant because it's so expensive to live there. And everyone thinks the commissary is this great big discount. Most of the time, it's really not. And they say, oh, you don't pay sales tax, but you pay a bag fee. That's the equivalent of your state sales tax. I digress. Hawaii was one place where it's a huge difference. And a gallon of milk, when I lived there going on 20 years ago, was $9 a gallon. If you went to just a regular grocery store outside of Post, it was about $9 a gallon. Wild. And when gas prices were like $2, $2.50 a gallon, and people were like, oh my God, gas. It was already like $5 a gallon over there. So it is wild, just wild, the prices there. But someone from Hawaii posted that they paid $11.50 for a dozen eggs. Like, that is insane. So if you're living in Hawaii, I am curious to know what you're paying, because that is a lot of money to.
Allison, did you see the post on Substack the last few days about the shareholdings for Target versus Costco? Because Target dropped their DEI, but Costco refused. Costco's stock prices have gone way up, and Target's have gone way down. I know Tony
Huh,
says that.
no.
Yeah, I know Tony says that the boycotts don't work, but they seem to be having an effect in that regard. It definitely seems to be
I
making a
think
difference.
I think Tony should readjust, because boycotts can work. They just have to be coordinated, and people have to stick to it for, like, civil rights. Those boycotts worked. They worked really well, but it has to be very coordinated and very sustained. And it's very hard to get a lot of people these days to go to be inconvenienced and uncomfortable.
Well, and there's
But
some of it,
yes,
like for us, there's not a Costco for 3 hours. And we have a local grocery store, but of course they're more expensive because they don't have the buying power of someone like Walmart. So we do end up having
right.
to use Walmart more than I'd like. And so figuring out how, I mean, I wish we were economically in a position to order direct from the producers of products and stuff. There's just some of them we can't get, but we need to try harder as well. But there's a lot of us in these areas where we don't have a lot of choices um, to do that. Like, I'm boycotting Target because there's not a Target for an hour. That's not personal choice, although it would be my personal choice.
No, we don't have the sticker Tony advertises, but we should. And I'm looking at figuring out how we can get some stickers that are, library democracy related, but I did that kind of flair. So we gotta, yeah. So Target, my town, like, it feels like every chain is shit here. So, like, Target, our Target sucks. So I don't go there. A, it's out of the way. B, it sucks. I go to somebody else's Target, like when I go home and I go to their Target, I'm like, there's so much selection. Like, there's so many cool things here. We don't have cool things like this. So, um, Walmart is convenient. We don't really have a choice. We don't have a Costco nearby. Best we can do is Sam's, and that sucks. So, it's hard to, you know, but like, when it comes to billionaires, if I'm going to give an asshole billionaire my money, Walmart is way less of an asshole than Jeff Bezos. So I'm going to give Walmart. I don't have a Amazon Prime membership anymore. I have Walmart Plus, and it has, like, its own unique perks. So, I understand Walmart's a shitty billionaire, but they're less shitty than Amazon. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with. Who's the least shitty is what I'm going for. I try to shop at Publix. Publix is a grocery chain that's in the South. They treat their employees really well. If you're not shopping their BOGO sales, they're really expensive. But if you can coupon a little bit and shop their sales, you can actually make out real well. So I try to do that. But it's hard to do the, shop at the places I'd want to. Aldi is, we have a lot more Aldis now near us, so that's also an option.
We're starting to get more of them. Do you know where Aldi has been, what stance they've taken? I haven't seen it.
They just don't seem like a bunch of dicks, so my guess is they're probably either neutral or, they're just gonna keep doing what Aldi does. But, like, Costco is not surprising that they refuse to give. I mean, they've always been known for having a great relationship with employees. They promote from within. They pay a decent wage. So, I mean, I would belong to a Costco if we had one that was near me. So, but you do what you can where you can. And if you have a choice, choose, if you can choose to pay a little more at a better place, then do that. Put, like, your money, it does matter. And I think, I don't think boycotting works necessarily, but I do think putting your money to where you feel it's going to be where it's putting your money where with a company that does the best it can in the world. If you can do that, I would say do that, and it does add up eventually. Target's stock prices are plummeting. A lot of places that feel like, oh, I can finally be free. I'm free of DEI. Well, guess what? People think you're a bunch of assholes. So, that's my 2 cents on economically hurting these people. If that's something you can do, you know what?
A great point. Yeah, Cynthia makes a great point to support your local farmers market and local butchers if you have them in your area. It's hard this time of year because they don't have a lot of produce, but when the time comes, we can really hurt a lot of those big chains by doing that.
Yeah. I heard of a thing. I didn't know this was a thing, and it's not available everywhere because some towns and cities don't let you do it. But you can rent chickens. Like, you can rent them, and like they'll produce eggs, and you can sell the eggs, you can eat the eggs, you can do whatever. But yeah, you can rent chickens, and they give you everything you need. You pay like a monthly fee. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know how economical it is, but it's a thing. Something worth looking into if that's something you want to do. I would have done it years ago, but I have plenty of room in my backyard, but the county says I don't. But I have plenty of room in my backyard. County says I need like double. I mean, we have a really big backyard, and like it's still not enough to legally do it. And we have a tattletale on our back block because my neighbor bought chickens. These were for like cockfighting, and these were like expensive chickens that they got, and someone tattled on him. Yeah, get rid of he flew the chickens to Mexico. That's how like big of a deal these chickens were. So that's you know what?
They rent sheep and goats to mow the grass in the spring. That is such.
I'm going to see if that's a thing here. That's a great idea because my husband, my family's going through some stuff. And my husband was the one that mows. I hate yard work. I hate, with a capital, hate yard work. If that's a thing, I'd be down. Totally down for getting some goats out here, mowing my grass.
And you can make goat milk soap and lotion.
No. I'm not into the weird goat milk thing. Like, it smells weird. Like, I mean, I'd use it, but I don't want to make it.
We're lucky. We have a friend that lives even more in the country than we do up here, and she has God, what does she have? She has cows and not cows. She has goats and chickens, and what else does she have? I know she has goats and chickens. She makes the goat milk lotion and soap, but she does eggs, and her eggs are still $2.99 a dozen.
That's cool. You know what I'm also scared of about mowing my own yard is because, like, once a year there's always a yellow jacket nest. I don't want to get stung by the yellow jackets. I'm really scared. Maybe I'll just pay somebody.
Bit by a black widow spider mowing the grass, so I'm over it.
Yeah, and no, I don't want to do it. I'll pay somebody, or like I'm really scared about the yellow jackets because, yeah, I don't know how I make them not be my yard, but yeah, I think that's true of like a lot of dairy. Like, it includes not necessarily piss, but just gross things, which is why you need it pasteurized, because RFK Jr. wants to bring back raw milk. I'm sorry, this is the hill I'll die on. I don't care what health benefits can come from drinking raw. Take a multivitamin if you're concerned about vitamins. Milk used to kill, like, kids back before pasteurization. One of the biggest killers of children was milk-borne pathogens. No. Raw milk, no. Listeria will freaking kill you. Like, ugh.
Well,
Because
in
there's
the
junk.
first case, yeah, the first case of human avian flu, it had passed from the chickens to the cows, because it went chickens, cats, and then cows, and then it went. The raw milk is how the first farmer got it, and then the other one, they don't think he had raw milk. They think he might have caught it some other way from the cow. I don't want to think about it, but that was enough for me to be like, no. I mean, I don't do milk anyway, but just no thanks.
Yeah, raw milk's disgusting. I don't care how good it tastes. I don't care. Milk used to kill people. There's a reason why these inventions became a thing. Because there was a genuine problem. Do you know anybody who has died of polio lately? I wonder why.
Yeah, but I bet we're about to find out. There's a measles outbreak in West Texas, and it spread into New Mexico.
Oh, good.
And they were all
Yay,
unvaccinated.
measles!
It was a big group of unvaccinated children, and unfortunately, with the measles, the mortality rate is, it's not just itchy
Pretty
and
big.
uncomfortable. It's like 1 in 4 end up in the hospital, and 1 in 1,000 die, and I'm sorry, those are numbers I'm not comfortable with.
Yeah, no. I mean, people think it's just like chickenpox. It's not. It's a serious disease. It's awful. I didn't have it. Obviously, I don't know, but my mother did. My everybody, every generation, like me and my sister forward, obviously we're all vaccinated. We've never had it. But our parents backward, they all had it. And they said how awful it was. I had chickenpox when I was 14, and that was awful. I can't imagine it being worse than that. Oh, Cynthia, you had the measles? Oh, I'm sorry. But my uncle, and by my uncle, I say it's my grandfather's brother. So he passed away several years. Like my grandfather, who was the youngest, passed away like 10 years ago. So Uncle Stanley passed away probably 15 years before that. So he's been dead probably about 30 years, but he had polio when he was a child. He was crippled from it. And he had arm braces. And towards the end of his life, I remember he was confined strictly to a wheelchair. But, I can't imagine like being in an iron lung. Like that's what do they really want the iron like and here's the thing, RFK Jr. is old enough to have known people who might have been in an iron lung. So like or he definitely knows like his parents knew people who either contracted polio or died of polio. Yeah, it's wild. Measles is very contagious. It's very, very, very contagious. Um, and it's just, isn't it wild that one medical research paper from the late 80s, early 90s set forth this trend?
Well, and that guy has admitted that he falsified his records. They've never been able to duplicate them. I mean, this is how science works, folks. And RFK Jr. is the one that first started spreading that before Jenny McCarthy, before the other people, the other influencers. It was RFK Jr. who was pushing that. But his kids are vaccinated, and his grandkids are
Of
vaccinated.
course, of course they are. And he got a COVID shot. I know he did. Like, I don't even say it. I know he did. Because that's the kind of slime ball he is. And this just popped him while he's wanting to get rid of everybody's mental health medications. Didn't his first wife commit suicide from depression? I'm pretty sure
she did, but he cheated on her, and I think she had cancer when he cheated on her too. It was him or one of the others. It's so hard. I mix them all together now.
Well, and when it comes to disease, it doesn't discriminate. So go ahead and drink your raw milk and your like uncooked beef or whatever the hell they want to eat or think is a health. Oh, that's not shocking. The woman who Publix has an awesome bakery though. At least they treat their employees all right. But they're all about to fuck around and find out because, rich and poor don't want to vaccinate their kids. So you don't want to vaccinate your kids against measles? Well, your kid, if you're rich, is going to die from measles. Could die from measles. If he's poor, they could die from measles. Oh, Cynthia, thank God you're here to fact check me. I can't. There's so much information. Like it's literally like a fire hose daily now. Like I used to compare it to like emptying a ocean with a paper bathroom paper cup, you know, the kind that disintegrate after one use. Now it's literally like I can't even get to the ocean because there's this fire hose that's um like just inundating me with. And I mean, I was pretty good with keeping up with information, but now it's
Well, and it's a fire hose of raw sewage at this point. It's really hard, and it's all like you have to wade through it. Like that whole thing with Doge is a government agency, and Elon Musk is in charge of it. And then no, it's not a government agency. He's just a senior advisor, and Doge doesn't have any powers at all. They just advise the president. Be like, well, that's not what you were saying 2 months ago, and it's not what he was saying yesterday on Twitter. Like, it's
right.
all
And you know
it's all
what?
double
Because
speak.
yeah, because it's technically illegal, and this was what George Conway was really helpful with, in explaining. I probably, if I thought about it, I would have figured this out, but um, positions like if you're gonna like start a new agency, like you have to go through Congress, and if like what Elon's doing, he has to be a congressionally approved, confirmed head of it. So what he's doing, he technically if he's going to be like have this level of access to, you know, information and be able to do what he's been doing, he has to be confirmed by the Senate. I forgot what the position level it is, um, when it comes to
That's
like,
why they
you
were
know,
arguing that he was just a senior advisor because that kept him from having to be. But then almost immediately, Trump signed an executive order expanding the powers of Doge to be able to do mass
and
firing.
he said that, and he said something about how Doge, like the very next day or the day before, he had said that like Doge has all this power, and now it doesn't. It's just, it's wild. It is wild. Ugh, gross. But well, kids, it is about that time. Time flies. So, we hit 100 1,790 subscribers. We are on our way to 2,000. So if you're watching, like, subscribe. Um, remember to check out our Substack and Linktree, and support us if you can. If you can't, that's fine too. Um, and I guess that's it. Do you have any last words before we um, get off?
No, but thank you, Tony, for letting us use Substack and check out the Kaufman Chronicles and the Library of Democracy on Substack.
That's right. I'm sorry. Check out Tony's. I put Tony's link in
Gripped.
our. I put Tony's link every time in the description too. So, but yeah, thanks for watching and joining us, and we'll see you next week. And oh dear Lord. All right, take care, friends. Have a good night.